Donald Trump once suggested paying every person in Greenland $1 million to join the United States. That's not a meme. That's not a conspiracy theory. It's a real geopolitical idea that shocked Europe. And if this ever happened, it could trigger the biggest Arctic power war in modern history. Greenland has around 57,000 people. Trump reportedly discussed a plan where the United States could financially compensate every citizen if Greenland agreed to join the US. That would cost tens of billions of dollars. But for Washington, this was not about money. This was about global dominance. Greenland is not just ice and snow. It sits in one of the most strategic positions on Earth. It controls Arctic shipping routes. It holds massive rare earth minerals. It has oil and gas reserves. And it offers military positioning against Russia and China. As climate change melts the Arctic ice, new trade routes are opening. These routes could be faster than the Suez Canal, and whoever controls them controls global trade. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Even though it has autonomy, Denmark controls foreign policy and defense. If the US tried to buy Greenland, Denmark would likely react aggressively. This would be seen as a direct threat to Danish sovereignty. Politically, it would be one of the biggest crises in Danish history, and Denmark would almost certainly say no. The European Union would see this as a geopolitical invasion. Greenland is strategically tied to Europe. If the US absorbed Greenland, America would gain a massive military and economic foothold inside the EU's Arctic sphere. The EU would likely respond with diplomatic pressure, sanctions, and NATO negotiations. This would fracture transatlantic relations. It could even divide NATO itself. Now the most dangerous part. Russia and China are heavily expanding their Arctic presence. Russia already has military bases in the Arctic. China calls itself a near-Arctic state and is investing in polar infrastructure. If the US suddenly took Greenland, Russia would see it as a military encirclement. China would see it as a strategic defeat. Would this start a war? Probably not an immediate shooting war, but it would massively escalate military tensions. More submarines, more missile systems, more Arctic bases, a new Cold War battlefield. Buying territory like this is almost impossible under international law. Greenland citizens voting to join the US would trigger constitutional chaos. Denmark's constitution, EU treaties, and international law would all be challenged. This would be the biggest sovereignty crisis since World War II. This was not about generosity. This was about control. The Arctic is the next global frontier. Whoever controls the Arctic controls future shipping, energy, and military power. Trump understood that the next global power war will not be in the Middle East. It will be in the Arctic. Would people accept $1 million? Some would. Some would resist. Some would protest. Greenland has its own identity, culture, and political ambitions. Many Greenlanders want independence, not to become Americans. This could divide the population dramatically. If the US acquired Greenland, America would dominate the Arctic. Europe would lose strategic influence. Russia would militarize faster. China would accelerate polar expansion. This would reshape global power balance for the next 50 years. So Trump's $1 million plan may sound insane, but it reveals something terrifying. The Arctic is becoming the next geopolitical battlefield, and superpowers are already positioning themselves. The real question is not whether this offer was serious. The real question is, who will control the Arctic in the next decade, and how far will they go to win?